Hi there. If you're watching this on YouTube, or you're wanting to watch any of my content on my channel, or both for that matter, I would strongly recommend hitting the subscribe button and comment and like on any videos if you may wish, because this is a general audience channel. Also, this video is not made for kids, it is for older fans and adults alike. So please sit back and enjoy the video. Gordon's New Shape. Written and told by Julyleonard. When Gordon was built at Doncaster Works as a prototype A1 Pacific under the design of Sir Nigel Gresley, he was originally painted apple green with white and black lining and brown frames, an A1 running board, circular buffer beams at each end, an 8-wheel tender at the very back, and the letters G and R in goldish yellow on both sides. However, he had no number for the G&R. He was just built as a prototype. The design had faults which needed correction, so Gordon was kept hush-hush and apart from test runs, was never put into regular traffic or assigned a G&R number. He was used experimentally until all defects had been cured and the first batch of Pacifics had appeared in 1922 and 1923, on the very same year that he was sold to the Fat Director with a spare boiler and firebox when he was no longer needed. The tests on Gordon had proved perfectly. His G&R livery was swapped out with the NWR blue livery with red lining and the Railways number 4 in yellow on both sides of his tender, and Gordon became the engine of his own express passenger train called the Wild Nor'Wester, which made him get to his smoke box and rather boastful about it. Years went by until one day, after Henry sneezed some boys for dropping stones on him. "Now, Gordon, for the 100th time, I can't help the way I am," complained Henry. "Why can't you just leave me be?"
"I simply can't, Henry," replied Gordon. "In truth, you've been nothing but a bother since you've arrived. You may look different compared to me since you're rebuilt at Crewe, but you have nothing of my strength or speed. I'm superior in any way, the pinnacle locomotive engineering, robust and reliable," he continued. "So you do well, Henry, to follow my advice and stop trying to be the engine I am."
"Fire and smoke, Gordon. Just leave Henry alone," snapped Edward. "It's not his fault, and you should know that. Besides, I wouldn't go as far as being robust and reliable. Do you remember your hill incident in 1923 when we were still located at Vickerstown? You weren't much good till I came along to help you," he continued. "And on top of that, you've been making some awful clanking noises lately. Don't push yourself too hard, otherwise you might find yourself breaking down," he finished. Gordon was furious.
"Me? Break down?" he fumed. "Are you being serious, Edward? 'Cause that is simply pathetic. Me fail indeed," he continued. "I'm the most reliable and respected engine on the island. I'll show you," he finished, and with that he puffed away, seething with fury. Gordon backed down on the coaches, whooshing and letting off steam furiously. "Those disrespectful engines! Dare to mock me, will they? I'll show that, Edward and Henry. I'll show them all," he said, still fuming.
As soon as the guard blew his whistle, Gordon blew his own and began to move, despite his wheels slipping furiously. "Whoa, steady, boy, steady," called his driver, although they did manage to make it out of the station in one piece. They were soon out on the open line, and the train was running smoothly, with green signals showing all clear as they passed through stations and junctions. Gordon was bound to determine to prove the other engines wrong. Although they did warn him to be careful, but obviously he took no notice whatsoever. He raced through Edward Station, charged up his infamous hill, made it to the top, and ran down on the other side without any mishaps. However, as they reached the bottom of the hill, his cylinders felt uncomfortable. Then there was a sharp bang! His driver stopped the train, then he and the fireman clambered down to examine him, making sure that his boiler hadn't cracked. "Well, that's torn it," said the driver. "Your valve gear is all fouled up. I'll tell the signalman at Wellsworth," and he ran back to the signal box at Edward Station. As Henry stopped at Wellsworth to pick up passengers, the signalman, hearing the whole situation, set the signals to danger. "Right," he said. "All traffic is being halted in both directions, but there's a goods train already signaled through. We can't keep Henry forever," he continued. "Number 2, Edward, is available, so we can send him out with a support group to secure number 4, Gordon, and he can bring the train to the nearest station, which is Marin," he finished. As soon as Edward had steam up, the driver rode with him back to the other side of the hill. They uncoupled the express from Gordon, and Edward brought the train to the nearest station in one piece. The passengers quickly scrambled out of the train and requested a bus service, whilst the empty coaches were left on a siding out of the way. Meanwhile, back at Wellsworth, it was all clear for Henry to leave. "Come on, Henry, off we go," his driver called. "We're already late, as it is." "That'll teach Gordon," remarked Henry as he steamed away. Gordon, who was still stranded, heard Henry's whistle from the distance. "Here we go," he groaned. "Well, well, Gordon, is this being robust and reliable?" teased Henry. "Looks like you need more exercise, my dear engine." "Ha ha," he finished, and chortled as he passed. Gordon was furious with Henry's remarks. However, he was too tired and embarrassed to retort. All he wanted to do was to go back and rest somewhere else, but he was ordered not to move until it was cool. He hoped he wouldn't be there for long, but unfortunately, it was long. The Fat Controller came by to Wellsworth. "Did Henry get through?" he asked. "Yes, sir," replied the signalman. "He was signaled through with no problems. The signalman at Marin and I will just have to bottom the traffic here and there until number 4, Gordon, can be moved," he finished. "How far away is James with the goods train?" asked the Fat Controller. "I want to go over there and see Gordon right away." "Well, I signaled him a few minutes ago. You shouldn't be long," replied the signalman. "Speaking of which, here he comes now," he finished when he heard James's whistle from the distance. The Fat Controller stepped onto the station platform once James arrived with the goods train. "Hello, sir. What's happened?" James asked, puzzled. The Fat Controller explained the situation and offered to ride in James's cab. "You can count on me, sir," James said acceptingly. When James arrived, he saw Gordon and started teasing him. "Robust and reliable, eh, Gordon?" he said. "Fat and failed, more like." "Ha ha ha ha," he finished and laughed as he left, much to Gordon's frustration. Once he was gone, the crew continued to work on Gordon. The Fat Controller was too busy with them to speak to him. He felt ignored. A few minutes later, however, he was ready to move when Edward arrived. "I don't know, Gordon," he sighed. "Just what are we going to do with you, eh?" He was then coupled up and brought him back to Wellsworth. The Fat Controller clambered down and spoke to Gordon. "Well, Gordon, it pains for me to say this, but you're in need of a major overhaul for a long time. But I can't afford it right now at the moment, I'm afraid. I'm sorry," he explained, looking downcast. And with that, he walked away. Gordon was left on a siding at Edward's yard for the rest of the day. all he could do was watch the trains pass by, wishing he was one of them, while putting up with the constant taunting from the trucks. Eventually, however, Gordon was sent away for his overhaul, which was much more pleasant for him. As it turns out, the place where he was sent for his overhaul happened to be Crewe, the same place where Henry had his rebuilt. As it also turned out, the Fat Controller and Sir William Stannier settled an agreement on Gordon's improvements. As the years went by, during his time at Crewe, the other engines had to manage without him. Henry was assigned to look after the Express, the Wild Nor'wester, whilst James was enlisted to look after the Flying Kipper, much to his annoyance. But overall, they did take turns swapping trains every now and then. But there did come a time when Henry would get a little bit about his station. One day in 1939, at Knapford Station, James was arranging some coaches for his local passenger train. As Henry backed down onto the express, James sniffed at him. "It's not fair," he complained. "You've pulled the express more times than I have. I deserve a change too." "Sorry, James, but it's the station master who decides who pulls what, and just as well, too," replied Henry with a smile. "I give Gordon a run for his money any day," he finished. "Pah!" snorted James. "Well, you don't have to show off with that attitude, too, you know." "You're only jealous," chuckled Henry. "You just stick to your goods trains, including the Kipper, as well as your local passenger trains, and leave the important work to us bigger engines. Goodbye, little James," he finished, as the guard blew his whistle and steamed out of the station, much to James's irritation. He snorted. Henry was just another quiet softman when he was still in his old shape, and now he's just another, well, Gordon. Oh, what a life, he groaningly finished as he steamed away with his local train. Meanwhile, Henry was out on the open line. The coaches were running smoothly, and Henry was making sufficient time. As he passed Crosby Station, there was a loud bang! Then he came to a complete stop right before Edward Station. "What was that?" asked Henry. "I don't know," replied his driver, "but whatever it is, I'll go get help." And with that, he clambered down and went back to the nearest signal box at the last station, much to Henry's embarrassment. Just then, a familiar whistle sounded in the distance. Henry recognized who it was, and sure enough, who should be coming down the line was Gordon. He had just returned to Crewe in a new shape. His valve gear was replaced with a 2-cylinder chassis designed by the Fat Controller. He received square buffers, a smoother running plate, as the new cylinders could not fit under the original, and a brand new 3,500-gallon Fowler tender, similar to Edward and James. Gordon was so pleased with himself that he couldn't be bothered by Henry and stormed past him all the way to Knapford Station, where the station master was waiting for him. "Ah, Gordon, perfect timing," he exclaimed. "Henry's broken down and can't pull the express anymore. Could you take over, please? Also take some workmen and spare parts with you as well." "Very well, then," replied Gordon. Of course, he had to help Henry, as he couldn't let the passengers down. At that time, he wasn't aware of his recent attitude, so as instructed, he hurried to his rescue with some workmen and spare parts. "You feeling all right, my dear Henry?" "Ha ha ha ha," he asked, chortling. "All right? All right? Do I look all right to you?" replied Henry, annoyed as the men worked on him. A little later, Gordon was coupled up to Henry, and they set off for the other end of the line. Eventually, they reached the terminus at Barrow and Furnace in the mainland. "Ah, it feels good to be back," sighed Gordon happily. "So, Henry, looks like you still have a lot to learn about fast trains, eh?" he finished and chuckled with delight. Although he never got an apology from Henry, but clearly he could tell that he had learned his lesson in humility. Gordon even had to laugh when James and Edward told him how brash he had been, but overall, it served Henry jolly well right in the end. After Henry was mended, he and Gordon made amends with each other, and the two became firm friends ever since.